Hello everybody, welcome back to Language, Litigation, and Integration. We continue on with our documentation of the violation of the United States Constitution. My name is Brad. I currently live in Ohio, Columbus, the capital, but my rights are violated. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution gives you a right to your writings and discoveries. What I have discovered has been well documented and derived and proven right here on this channel. You can go look, well, the first talking point is the major result of yesterday, but if you have any confusion as to what this video is or what this series is, this is legal documentation of ongoing crime. That crime is predominantly being propagated by the government. That is not a joke in any way. I have a clear right to my writings and my discoveries. I've demonstrated the completion of analysis, which has a ton of engineering and technological applications that are classified, and so what they've done with my life is just act like I don't exist and destroyed everything I've ever worked for and ruined my health, ruined my property, ruined my relationship with my parents' family, and restricted my ability to have a family of myself. So if anything confuses you, I have a right to my writings and discoveries. My discoveries as well, my discovery, plural, singular, doesn't matter. There's so much research that I've conducted and proven that it's hard to articulate, again, what really counts as my work in the sense of academic citation, right? I literally have an infinite H index. I've proven it is what it is the form of all resolutions. It's not a resolution, but we've made that distinction in science class. But point being is the law is directly and egregiously violated. So if anything confuses you, that's where you can stop. You can turn off the video. It doesn't matter at all. Because I put these videos out, I don't even know who watches them. This is not stuff meant if you're watching this on YouTube. This is way bigger than YouTube. And at this point, anyone watching this either knows who I am or has no idea who I am and has probably already clicked off. Regardless, I continue just to document the crime being committed against me. And so the first thing I want to do is reflect again on the result that we've produced, that I've produced. That A, right, we were born into a world where you have an alphabet, right? You have words and they have meaning. And so from nothing is touching but everything is connected, we've now arrived at the first letter of the English alphabet, which again, I didn't pick that English is the language of science, but it's more differentiated. That's why it's more applicable. That is why it is caught on. It's an overall iteration of language as a whole. And the fundamental differentiation is A and E. You can see that geometrically directly on your screen, the shape of the letter A, lowercase, and the shape of the letter E, lowercase. Those are inverses. And so that is the fundamental differentiation of all of language. And the large-scale evolution of language progression is to be more specific, to be more differentiated. And so that is the largest result ever produced. It affects everyone immediately. It is immediately validated and appreciated right now if you just look at the shapes. But it's a good historical point, considering we're coming to the end of Lent, to reflect on both the general relativity, how generally relative language is, and that's not in relation to Albert Einstein, that's in what those words encapsulate, because language is completely generally relative, right? The reason you have more than one word for a house in different languages is because there's no right answer, but there is consistency to the form of the words that you put forth. That's what English is, that's what French is, that's what German is, that's what any language is. But to me, on a personal and truly on a scientific level, languages are accents. You have resonance and you have consonants, and the sequence of which you put those in produces a language. But point being is, so for generally relative, to emphasize that the absoluteness, the definitiveness comes from this internal consistency, not like there's a right word for the word. There's not like there's a most optimum word for house. And so wanted to point that out again, emphasize that. I don't know if you guys really see how poignant that is. But another thing historically is, again, what the incompleteness theorem, so to speak, looks like at a sociological, governmental, authority, leadership type of level, right? That is what the 10 Commandments are. So again, I'm not religious, I'm not political if you're watching this video in any way, but when I'm saying everything is generally relative, the intuitions people have on a personal level comes from the overall culture of the world you live in. And so I refer to stories that the most people have been learned on, because that is, again, their logical structure is literally generally relative based on the people that have come before them. And that is the verbiage they know. That's everybody. That's literally everybody. And so, point being is the incompleteness theorem, super heavy quotes, meaning Johnny has demonstrated character with more integrity and more correctness than Billy. But then you get to a situation where both Johnny and Billy genuinely don't know the answer. But it's like, whose intuition are we going to go with? The guy that's demonstrated discipline, consistency, so on and so forth, or somebody that's blurting out random shit. But genuinely, both people don't know the answer to a problem. But you're going to go with somebody with more intuition. So the manifestation sociologically of leadership is really the sociological. I mean, it's the incompleteness theorem where it's like, okay, we don't know, but this person has demonstrated more character, integrity, decision making, analysis, reasonability, so they're the leader. And that's what the 10 Commandments are. And so getting to our talking points, I really want to emphasize the first commandment of not following false authority is functionally what everybody is literally doing. Here is the United States law. Here is your obligation to disseminate that scientific information, to enforce the law, specifically to academics and law enforcement, and you won't do so. So if you are in law enforcement right now, aware of my work, and you consider yourself a Christian or a Catholic or any denomination, you couldn't be, like historically. And you will be prosecuted if you act like you are in any public, meaningful way. Because it's not fucking true. I mean, that is literally the practicality of the first commandment. Again, I'm not appealing to any sort of religiosity. But that is what it is. It's saying, okay, there are certain aspects of life where nobody knows the definitive right answer or can't prove it. Which, again, you've never seen proof before besides me personally. And then historically, there have been other people that can prove things to a completeness level that's actually complete. Completeness is complete. And you see the historical reaction to that. And time just hasn't passed to react to, again, all of fundamental realization is proven on the internet. And so that is what the 10 Commandments is again, when you see God, that is a law office. There is a female presence that did the most of the work. But when you see historically God, capital letters, that is not an individual, that is a law office. Right? The word of God is an edict. It's a executive order. And so, but again, the reason that is so prevalent throughout our history is because of this incompleteness theorem. Again, I'm not trying to make a reference to Gödel or math, but things you don't know. And then you generally have people that know more than other people. And we're at a point in time where it's very clear you people didn't understand how much more could be known than the collective consciousness sentiment of everybody else. And it's profound. The differentiation of intelligence at the upper levels is mythically different. And so you might get somebody that can trivially prove everything on the internet, and people just kind of and then they just kind of go about their day, and then they continue to do dumb shit, right? And that's when you have, again, historically, Jesus's reference to God, again, is this, he self-cucked himself, right? He said, I am the Son of God, right? Jesus was not, again, super high up on the intelligence scales, man. He was a celebrity. He got famous in his lifetime, was traveling around, had the whole social phenomenon of becoming a celebrity in his lifetime. And so there were certain immaturity statements in his own teaching, in his own lifestyle. But he said, history, the Son of God, I mean, that's a self-acknowledgement hymn. Okay, so then you take people that are profoundly differentiated from the rest of the population, and he's still saying, I'm way below. Because when you're at this upper level of, and it's not upper level, it's more comprehensive. I've never met somebody, interacted with somebody where I think I'm doing something genuinely different than them, truly. And so, but can anybody else solve all of science? To me, it's literally trivial, provably. And to everybody else, it's like they can't even start doing analysis. So clearly there's a difference. What it is on a personal level, I don't know. But historically, when you see Jesus saying, no, I'm the Son of God, or whatever, that is a reference to saying, here is logical structure, here is teaching, here is leadership that I can't touch. Go ask Terence Tao if he can prove the Riemann hypothesis. He genuinely can't. It's not that he's not stupid or can't do this, he can't. And so there's things that people can't do that other people can do. And again, historically, just emphasizing that is what the first, that's what all of the commandments are, is just in this context of there is no provable right answer. There are things that are true, and am I disciplined? Again, not me, Brad, but just the leader of the group is, leading by example, more so than here's a word, here's something I can tell you. So that is historically what's going on for sure. And again, just to emphasize that, again, these upper level of intelligences, there's so little data points. I mean, there are so little data points. But again, specifically to the Word of God, I mean, that is a executive order to effectively the incompleteness theorem, and then the fear of God. This is another, again, phrasing and verbiage where it's like you can have awareness, intelligence levels where you can very literally, you take two pianos, right, and you play the E string. This one starts vibrating. This one's over here is the one that received the momentum. You struck a chord over here, and this one is literally physically vibrating, right? Presence sets communication channels. And so you can very literally, you know for sure what has occurred. And so when people say, the fear of God, historically, they're talking about a judgment. You go into court and you've never met a judge and you're used to interacting with other people that are truly not differentiated in this capacity. And then, they start proving your thoughts to you in real time. That is historically where then they're like, holy shit, their eyes get all wide, and this has happened to me my whole life. And because it's, again, you demonstrate things, even if you can feel them entirely holistically for real. It's just like, what is the point, right? There's no, again, into more of the scientific, technological things, what people have called telepathy is 100% real, but it's not mind reading. It's presence synchronizing resonance, right? You walk 15 dogs, right? And then you take one big one that's mature, and all of the other ones the big dog can literally walk all of the smaller dogs. And so presence sets communication, sets relationships. It's independent of one species, but you can truly feel their entire decision-making process. And so when somebody goes into a courtroom, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get one over on somebody, and then it's like, what is this? Meaning complete understanding of their behavior to a proof level. I mean, directly, immediately, it's trivial. It's not difficult. Because again, everyone is exposed to the same logical structure, and so you can immediately start proving their thoughts faster than they can think them, and it's not difficult. Like I said, it's profoundly trivial. But then again, it shocks them, it spooks them, it ontologically shocks them. And then if you do that and you're a judge and they're a criminal or they're a lawyer even, or somebody that thinks that they've never interacted with somebody like this, it's a true, what the fuck is going on? Because it forces realization on the other person. So if you're the more mature person in an interaction, even if it's an individual from a different species, they will get shocked. So I'm trying to give you some more insight into my life where I've had direct interactions immediately. 1 foot away, 9 foot tall, in this little shroud thing, big old eyes. And I've had probably about, I'd say 7 or 8 direct interactions. But it doesn't matter if I'm dealing with a 3-year-old or something from not this species. The more mature person in the interaction sets the communication exchange, which is there's one relationship. It takes 2 to tango. It takes 2 to communicate. And the dynamic to get that going is no different, truly no different than having a good conversation. You go into a room with a bunch of people, assuming you speak English, or I speak English, I go into a room with a bunch of people that speak English. It doesn't mean we're gonna have a good conversation. It doesn't mean we're gonna have a productive conversation or an insightful conversation just because we can speak the same language. And so what people have called telepathy throughout is really just awareness and presence, but there's nothing to learn. There's just other organisms out there in the world. That's not the point of this video. I'm going to make a whole nother video on that. But point being is, historically, the fear of God, that statement is coming from, it's like, okay, I've never interacted, I know what a judge is, I know what this guy is, I've interacted with other human beings, and you interact with genuine differentiation of sentience capacity, I would say. But historically, that's what's going on. And again, to anyone that self-identifies as a Christian or Catholic, you're not. I mean, you can't be. I mean, historically, you're going to learn that one of the first people with a UFO was the Catholic Church. Shout out to Mussolini. He's been dead for a while. But he was definitely like, what do we do with this thing? Where did this come from? And the reality is the major structures you see in the ocean, in the ice, and in the rocks, which I help you locate, they've always been there. I mean, it's not like Eric Weinstein. What do you do when the North Sentinelese Island comes online? India's been there before. They've always been there. They're going to be there after. India's part of Asia. Asia's a part of the larger globe. I mean, the scales of life. I mean, we're dealing with human beings are just coming online in their local neighborhood, and I'm certain of that. Again, literally not the point of this video. But again, it's a history at this point in science. It's all the same thing to me. There's no difference. And we're just at this point where here's things that are definitively true, demonstrably as analytical steps. Not proving the existence of a solution, not tightening an error bound, saying, here's fucking everything, Johnny. What do you think about that? And so, I'm trying to give you some insight there. Again, I'm not like beating around the bush. It's literally just not the content of this video. And that stuff just, it doesn't like, I don't know if it freaks people out or what, but we'll make a whole other video. It's really not even the point. But it's no different. Like that's what's happening historically when people say the fear of God or only God can judge me. It's just this differentiation of what human beings would call emotional intelligence. Really just awareness and presence. But moving along to our talking points, again, to continue to emphasize the largest result of science that has ever been produced is sitting on the internet. And nobody cares. Awesome. Fantastic. But we move along. So, nothing. Well, what else is there to do besides own the libs? Those freaking libtards. Right? We're doing cross multiplication with syllables. What word did libtard come from? And again, more so even making a jest or again a direct all social media companies that try to violate free speech in any capacity, you are committing crime. And so saying a word like that, and again, in the context in which I use them, it's not even hate speech or derogatory. It means slow. That word means slow, and I have to like, I know I've said it several times throughout videos, but I have to like try to edit them, and it's just like free. I mean, like I'm truly speaking freely as a judge, as the most mature person in the room, and it's just like, it means slow. It means like you're being objectively slow. Not the person with Down syndrome, but the person that has all of the reasonable facilities and capacities to make a reasonable decision and still decides to do something stupid. That's renarded. But what better way to own the libs? Again, shout out Donald, shout out JD Vance. We'll get to him in a second. Shout out Hegseth, bro. And don't forget Cash and Valhalla. But did you see that those libtards own themselves? There, Hegseth. Jill Biden's Secret Service detail owns the libs by shooting himself in the leg. Probably what the SIG, what's the, I think it's the M7's, the military version of the 320. But that happened at the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania airport. Again, I don't know what else to say. I just thought it just popped up. The libtards self-own themselves by shooting themselves in the leg. Again, overall gun safety. Again, there's no mechanical device that I will trust ever, 100%. Granted, again, I don't know what's like the Secret Service. I mean, you know they're all armed, but they all carry concealed. So it's kind of like, why? Again, that whole public versus private. It's still just this overarching conceptualization where it's just like, you know, Secret Service armed. It's like they're not concealing anything for like legal reasons. Like, what is the purpose of Secret Service to carry concealed? But I'm assuming it was concealed. Not in 10 million years will I ever carry concealed appendix, 0% chance. I did more, again, I know a lot of people do it a lot of times. It's just, I don't trust any mechanical device, period, end of story. That is just that. But I don't know what the situation is, but the Secret Service agent shot themselves in the leg. Because I would say there's a lot of people out there that I would say, you know, uncommanded discharges aren't even possible. Nope. There are 100% efficient processes. You could have mechanical error, and that happens one time. And it's just like, oh, it's just a, you know, even if people, if you shoot yourself in the leg, you hit that femoral artery one time, you know, your genitals. I mean, that's a lot of blood flow all of the time, depending what you're looking at. What? But just something that popped up. And so here was another thing. So I got a warning on Reddit. There was a video posted, and it was a video, some woman screaming French. There's a guy DJing out in the woods. He's just vibing out, making a video. Maybe cause, at the very worst, again, when I present legal cases, I always present all of the logic or all of the situation that is present. And so maybe at worst, this guy is making a video, vibing out, maybe creating some sound pollution. Would be like that's like the categorically worst thing going on. French chick comes up to him and literally starts berating him verbally, and then starts like pushing him, and then brings out a taser and starts like tasing him. So I mean, this is battery, assault. This is, you know, substantial movement. And so I first wanted to make that for field calls for law enforcement. Less lethal is fucking stupid, right? You have a gun. You're trying to say not gun. But the people in the populace are well aware of popular terms. So if it's a taser, say taser. If it's a beanbag, say beanbag. Don't say less lethal. Because if you tase somebody and they fall over and hit their head on the ground, that's still lethal. But Brad, we're trying to make the distinction of not gun. Then great, then say not gun or say the thing that it is. Don't say less lethal. Hate the field call. Makes no sense. Because as you're trying to talk a person down, I mean, you're really communicating to your partner at that point if you're calling less lethal. But still, if you're like the perpetrator of a crime, hearing the verbiage of what is less lethal, right? Am I going to get hit with a beanbag? Am I going to get hit with a taser? And so your clear command should be clear commands, and less lethal is just saying not gun. But from a law enforcement standpoint, you can absolutely have taser, result in a lethal situation. And so, regardless, hate the field call of that, say whatever instrument you're using. But chick's assaulting this person with a taser on, so again, clear battery, clear assault. And the guy, again, the guy's a DJ and the chick's a girl, female. So it's like he doesn't seem too worried about her approaches. I don't care. I mean, this is that Lucas Perez guy, like not even just like pushing, like someone getting into space, like getting into their space first, and then like maneuvering, situating where he can like tackle somebody. People get slightly offended and think it's their right to commit violent assaults and batteries, and it's not. And so now I'm going to tell you a different story really quick. I went to a camping site and I saw a lot of smoke, and then I saw a female dog. I can't believe people refer to them as that bitch. So if you can pick out that verbiage of what I commented from that quick story, I put that on Reddit. Because again, what am I looking at? I'm watching a video of someone getting assaulted. And so that verbiage might have been put onto Reddit in proper context, right? And then I get a warning on Reddit saying, well, this was threatening. And so which I appeal, I say this is not threatening. This is a statement of self-defense. She is clearly committing battery. He is clearly getting physically assaulted. Or are we not allowed to say defend yourself? And clearly we're not. And in reality you are. And so what is a threat? I am going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. How about if somebody says, hey man, somebody that maybe you have tension with, or you're not real super friends, and you say, hey man, how's the wife and kids? Is that a threat? You've just demonstrated awareness of their family in a context where it's like, why is he saying this? And so legally, what is a threat is a direct statement of action. I am going to go do this. So no, I did not threaten this person. I did not tell anyone to encourage violence, and I explicitly don't. This is a context. This video is posted up here to say, look how inefficient, immoral, illegal this behavior is. A woman assaulting a person, and then someone comments, defend yourself. That's not illegal. That is not a threat, and it's certainly not illegal in any capacity, and it's not a threat of violence in any capacity. And what the content is that I'm commenting on, it's directly appropriate and relevant. At some point, you have to be an adult in the room and comment proportional to the consequences of what your actions can cause. So that was an interesting, again, thing. But again, all of the social media outlets that have censored speech in any way, shape, or form, again, have suppressed science to, again, with the most profound societal consequence ever. So you guys are all going to prison, but there's no laws and there's no nothing and no one gives a fuck. So continuing to point out all of the crime that's being committed because we are documenting crime. So we got to know our great vice president a little bit, a great member of the great state of the United States, Ohio, OH, JD, OH. But he was interviewed by Benny Johnson. And so that's kind of like the historical lead-in. Like I said, everything I talk about is just because it's true. And so, but we have Benny Johnson, a Christian podcaster, influencer. That realm, I don't know if this is MAGA or not. What I would say is MAGA is just, Kid Rock to me is MAGA. Benny Johnson might be MAGA, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. But again, what I would call MAGA is just the blind allegiance to Donald Trump specifically. Yeah, that's just what I would call it. But we learn about J.D. Vance. Again, I talked about this a little bit about it in the economics. He has this mixed family. I'm not talking racially, but like it seems like J.D. and his wife. And again, I'm not saying anything that's not directly immediately in the public. But they have a mixed family, meaning they both had kids from like previous marriages or relationships or whatever. And so, but he's talking again about, hey, He's sitting there with Benny Johnson. They're like, oh, hey, how's the kids? How's the kids? Oh, yeah, we all have values. And again, it's this jovial, oh, I'm a Republican, you're the other Republican. We care about fiscal responsibility, being mature, social justice is silly and stupid, and respect the law. That's the biggest one from the Republican Party that I've seen historically is, hey, here's the Constitution, we're going to respect this. The libs and Democrats want to change, our GOP, our grand old party. Look at that. They can't have that. But that is the things they present. Now, demonstrably with J.D. Vance has come up, you can see it from when he gets nominated as the vice president. He's excited for a career advancement. And not just a career advancement, he's the vice president. Specifically on Logan Paul's podcast, he is very excited clearly that he gets Secret Service agents. His life is now exciting. There's a guy, again, with that M7 sitting there ready to... Jill Biden's a lib, so they got the bad Secret Service. But he's excited that, there's excitement in his personal life because of a career progression, because he gets nominated and picked as the vice president. And so, totally out of his league. They're sitting there talking about, oh, you're the youngest vice president in history. And he's like, JD, you are not competent, brother. Hillbilly elegy, man. We can go out, I can show you right by Pittsburgh, or going to Pittsburgh, the big Cabela's, right when you go through Lansing, Ohio. I can show you the whole area, brother. Hillbillies, I know quite a bit. I know half the coal mine myself. But they're talking again about their kids not having, just growing up, kids being innocent, literally the verbiage he uses, which I've seen Mark Cuban also use this, because remember, analogies transmit through the species, and I don't know where they come from, but I can hear them being transmitted, right? And so JD says something to the effect of, they finally have their little personalities, and that little personalities I've directly heard Mark Cuban use before. And so I don't know if JD got that from Mark Cuban, or again, just because the most efficient descriptions get transmitted throughout, but I can feel the transmission. I can feel like this is not an original statement from JD Vance. And so then again, what about the girls in Iran? You blew up a school, not militants, not IRGC, not the Supreme Leader's cohort. Girls trying not to get raped and going to school. And is that just truly from you guys as grown men? Look at your daughters, look at your kids and say, well, that one's brown and over there. Doesn't count. Use words. Come on, Joseph. What is it? Is it John David or Joseph David? What is it? Which good Christian name did you take on, JD? Is that loving your neighbor? Is that treating another person the way you would want to be treated? Is that treating another family the way you would want your family to be treated? 12-year-old girls, JD. 12 years old. They're just, again, not to be weird, but they're just probably beginning to go through puberty, trying to figure out, again, what boys like them. But they're in this environment where they could get raped and then they get killed. And now they have to worry about some white guy over here dropping a bomb, because why? Well, we're going to get the uranium. Where is it at? Are we sure of it? Well, we're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Well, it was open before you bombed them. What's our objective, Commander-in-Chief Donald? Oh, well, again, if they don't do what we say, we're going to blow up their infrastructure. Great, we're just going to cause reckless damage for what? If it does not, there is no articulated military objective. The administration is just flip-flopping, spewing out whatever sounds good. And it's atrocious and it's disgusting. So JD, I want to know, again, look at your daughters, look at your kids. To anyone watching this, I'm just talking about what's in public. And then say, what's different about an Iranian girl? What's the difference? And there isn't one, obviously. But the little personality was the specific phrasing I heard transmitted. And so, throughout their conversation, it's only like 20 minutes, they talk about fixing fraud, and then I literally can predict what they're going to say, and I write down Nick Shirley, and sure enough, J.D. Vance says Nick Shirley. So this little phenomenon guy with some fraud journalism of the Planned Parenthood out of Minneapolis, but again, it's just a MAGA. Again, I don't even want to use the term MAGA. It's just like another social phenomenon. A young person in their young 20s getting kind of famous, finding their voice. Because you can see it in his subsequent, I haven't even watched like the actual thing, but you just see certain things go viral. And so then he releases more fraud documentation. So now everything is out there as fraud, which hilariously it is. Like there is a ton of fraud going out there, what I have called just casual fraud, where it doesn't affect enough people to where they just go like, or it does affect enough people and still people just go like, because of the practical case of prosecuting, collecting evidence, doing something about it, which is atrocious. It's terrible throughout the whole society. It has nothing, it supersedes and it is prevalent well past political ideology. Just this what I call casual fraud. But that's this Nick Shirley's thing. Is like everything is fraud, and I'm going to be the one that points it out. And then you just get in another situation immediately where this guy is so ready to point fingers at somebody else. Nick Shirley, tell me about you. Again, in this time of Lent, why don't we reflect inwardly on ourselves? Cast the first stone, nigga, I can duck. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I'm already blind. Jesus. And so, but that's this kind of thing, and you just see this behavior just like start. But again, the overall fraud is true, but then this MO of now everything, I got famous on this video and I'm going to go find this other fraud over here for sure. It's kind of like the mentality of this Nick Shirley guy. Haven't really watched any of his things, but it's certainly, again, of the viral posts that he's made, that is what's going on. And so there was a quote from, I believe this is J.D. Vance. No abstraction, his friends can't get $60,000 a year jobs. And so this is J.D. Vance referencing to Nick Shirley, saying that Nick Shirley's friends can't get jobs. Again, yeah, the overall job market is fucking stupid. Then it's back on this again. You have sold people the American dream, which I want to push back on. People are stupid enough to accept that, right? Social media causes people to get addicted to their phones. Nope, people are just trying to live their lives and they like to socialize, and there's a lot of socializing on social media. So again, trying to get at this cause and effect of your kids aren't addicted to the phones because Mark Zuckerberg's programming them to take all of their attention. Your friends can't get $60,000 a year jobs, not because of the smaller guy over there 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 10 or 100. It's just all of this low level pointing fingers and say that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. Look at your fucking selves. But a fun fact from the conversation, fraud under $1.4 to $1.5 million a year is not even prosecuted. Like, again, just like what? I literally have fraud is theft. That should be prosecuted. Again, fraud is fraud. Why? Then why? How is this real? You go to a grocery store, a convenience store, a hardware store, and you steal $1,200 of equipment right now. You're going to have some sirens blaring. How the fuck is this shit real? We have no laws, that's how it's real. We have no integrity, that's how it's real. We have no actual morals or character or leadership. That's how this is real. And so they are putting forth that the DOH, the Department of Homeland Security, should fund TSA so that people could travel for the holidays. And so TSA recently kind of got opened up, employees got paid. I saw Matthew Perry or Tyler Perry or light-skinned black dude in the news handing out gift cards, and something happened there. But Benny Johnson and J.D. Vance are like, yeah, we should fund TSA, and we should. And then do you know the history of the TSA? Again, 95% of all materials, objects that they try to scan for, they did a big internal sting operation and 95% got through or something. It was 90 plus. And so the TSA is, again, this facade show. There's just not very, very few people out there trying to commit any sort of terrorist attacks ever. It's like the most unnatural thing to exist. So the TSA is not well-founded and motivated to exist at all, but employees should get paid for what they sign up for what they consent to do. And so, yeah, that's going on. But Joe Rogan, so they were a little flustered. Now we got a little internal conflict because Joe Rogan called the Republicans or the MAGAs dorks. Dorky brains. I wonder where we've heard that before when everyone steals from Brad's research. Uh-oh, Brad makes a video, we transmit it all around. He describes fundamental experience more specifically than everybody else. We have to use that verbiage, but we're just going to steal it all. Oopsies doopsies. So Joe Rogan gets to call the dorky brains and not Brad. Oopsies. But again, Joe Rogan's never... I don't even know why Joe Rogan's fucking famous. I really don't. Fear Factor was a kind of fun show. I don't really follow MMA, so I don't know what relevance I'm thinking he has pretty big relevance. But don't you see that's like the overall theme of like the men in our society? Logan Paul, Jake Paul. You might say they're not men, but again, people that are famous, people that actually fucking make money, not the broke people that are poor at home bitching about shit. And then it's like, I'm going to be a fighter. KSI, I'm going to be a fighter. We don't live in a society, it's the dorkiest shit ever to be like, I'm gonna be like the toughest guy, I'm gonna go win the MMA. It's like, do you need pads on all of your fists or just the kneecap pads? Or like, how many pads are we using? But again, commenting on this alpha male mentality of I'm gonna fight. It's like, go get rich and make love to your wife and calm down. Jesus Christ. Because some of us don't get to have wives or careers or families or anything because the United States is a fuckhole. But yeah, the TSA should get paid. Joe Rogan's irrelevant. JD Vance being the youngest VP in history is another political motivation. It has no relevance to your merit, Joseph. Iran is a little excursion. That is what JD Vance described it as, a little excursion. Fucking hilariously stupid. But he goes on to say, so we don't have to do this again for a very, very long time. I thought the goal, the military objective that wasn't articulated was to deplete them of uranium indefinitely. And if you monitor, again, the tracking of it all around the globe, how are they going to get it again? So again, if this kind of statement is, again, I am a leader. I am a leader. This is not leadership. This is dorky brains. Donald's a dork. JD's a dork. Benny's a dork. We're all big dorky brains. We're just going to facilitate death and suffering and think our legacy is going to be anything besides what Brad says it is. Okay, have fun. But he says neuter them of nuclear weapons. So again, I'm trying to figure out what is the military objective as articulated by our administration, and there isn't one. It's just Donald wants to do this, a bunch of people follow Donald, everyone says, yeah, and then everyone's like, oh. And the most core thing is everyone is insulated from the consequences of their actions. Yeah, so that was embarrassing, but that is what we got out of our great Vice President, JD Vance. So we have a high school student shoots his teacher, then kills himself. I assume this is a he. I do not, with being a minor, you don't get the gender. But the teacher that was killed was female, or it was the teacher, the condition as the writing of this, when I documented it, was the condition was unknown. But seemed like a pretty targeted thing. This happened in Hill Country College Preparatory High School in Bulverde near San Antonio, Texas. So it seems like a personal grudge against one teacher. But I probably won't report on it in the future, so Google it if you want to learn more. But we have no charges for the Renee Good killer. That's exciting stuff. Again, if you want to be lie, cheat, and steal and have the potential to maybe shoot somebody and get off scot-free, go join the military, go join law enforcement, more specifically. If you're overseas, again, how much do people actually follow the fucking law in War Zero? But allegedly, you know, you have to be fired on upon first, which is fucking so weird, man. This concept of war is just so archaic and stupid. And then to have rules of war. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, because I do know what I'm talking about, but there's no reason to irrationality. There is no reason or ration to irrationality. You just can't, fucking people need to grow up and they can't. But yeah, if you just want to run amok and do whatever you want, go be a fucking cop. Go spend the least amount of time possible to get a state-sponsored badge to have a gun and say, I can tell you what to do. If that's your MO, if that's what you want in life, go be a police officer. So, more big important stuff out of our states. Ron DeSantis signs a bill to rename the Palm Beach Airport to the Donald J. Trump Airport. So when he flies in after bombing those Iranian schoolgirls and to play a nice long round of golf, what's the handicap at, Donald? Genuinely curious. No way, bro. No way you break 100. Come on, Donald. Don't lie, bro. You're not breaking 100. You're not. Boom, 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 boom. More dead Iranians. But Donald, hey, dude, what club are you using on the par 3? At about 160 yards. Donald, I think you're 160 yards, bro. I'm thinking you're a little older, so I'm thinking maybe an 8 iron. 8 iron maybe for 160. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, obliterate that infrastructure. All right, Donald, let's line up the green. I'll give you a green read. It looks slightly to the left. It's going to break about 2 cups to the right after about a 3 foot. So you can make your 5 foot putt. Boom, 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 boom. So really having, again, commenting clearly on this concept of leadership, and we're going to have a war where our commander-in-chief goes fucking golfing while you go risk your life, is fucking insanity. And then the American populace is like, we're respecting the overall edifice of the government is atrocious and horrible. Yeah, but now Donald has his own private, again, The ballroom just got delayed. Oh, stinks. That stinks. A judge blocked that, which again, it's amazing what one judge can do. What if one judge out of all of the judges that existed, the greatest judge, I can't do a Trump impersonation. I don't know. But again, if a judge came out and said, yeah, publish Brad's paper, again, science would be, so it's again, the world sucks, man. But Ron DeSantis is over there. Yes, Donald. Not on my chin, dude. Just hit me right in the face. Give me the money shot. Ugh. That's Ron DeSantis for you. But again, Michael DeWine's probably next in line. He's up there with his walker. Oh, Donald, don't forget to spray me with your love juice. Oh, me and Fran need some too. Again, I do not have constitutional rights, and that is in the direct jurisdiction of Michael DeWine. I have TSA relief as employees get paid. That is good, even though the TSA is a joke. And so, here's another good use of resources. Where did Doge go? our lead efficiency officer, Special Elon, where did he go? The Army is investigating why 2 Apache helicopters make an apparent flyby to Kid Rock's house. They were flying around the Nashville No Kings protest. Oh, wait a second. We got an update on that one pretty quick. Our great war chief, Pete Hegseth, says, thank you, at Kid Rock. U.S. Army pilot suspension lifted. No punishment, no investigation. Carry on, Patriots. Pete Hegseth is a fucking disgrace to the United States Constitution. Lock him up, throw him in prison. No investigation to the waste. Let's just focus on the waste of government funds. I have an Apache helicopter. Apache, I mean, we're talking big boy, this is our shit, and we're gonna use that shit to go fly by Kid Rock's house. Where did Kid Rock even come from? Has this guy been relevant in like the past 20 years? I'm trying to think of what song. There was one song he got kind of popular with, or at least that I knew him from, but this is like way back in high school. So I'm just trying to figure out where Kid Rock is coming from, like how he's relevant on the scene. But to see, again, the Department of War, again, I don't even know Hegseth's direct title. They're all bullshit. It's all carnival level nothingness. But no investigation to government waste ever. So what are we doing with Jay Powell at the Federal Reserve? Which, again, I think $2.5, again, how many people need grand ballrooms? The Federal Reserve needs this great big, no. Donald needs his ballroom, no. Again, maybe there's functional use, but no investigation. I mean, this is not acceptable military direction ever. Ever. Ever, never, ever. But again, we're watching a point in history where the law doesn't matter. The president is a pedophile convicted of tremendous amount of felonies, and it will sit on the camera and tell you he owns firearms. And everyone just kind of goes, Go to GNC, buy a product, the FDA will say, this is good for brain health. Casual fraud, spreading out how our society makes no sense of the things we've talked about today, which is what we do every day. But truly atrocious. Again, I cannot comment the way I would like to as a world leader and as an actual commander-in-chief versus dorky brains Peter. Because Pete's not a real leader. He's just I don't even know where these people come from. I literally have no idea who the fuck these people are, outside of their relevance to the administration. And so I wanted to pull up this screenshot from Kid Rock. So as I'm pulling up there, our last talking point is we have the humans to travel to the moon for the first time in 53 years on April 1st, 2026. That would be today. But I am laughing because, human beings have been to the moon a lot more than is publicly known, as well as to Venus, and as well as probes everywhere. I'm talking like manned ships. So you guys are not even getting anything close to the real shit on that. That is 100% definitive. The moon is a lot more interesting than people think. That's one of those things that's kind of in the public discourse. And so here was Kid Rock's, before we get back to the going to the moon, which is not even remotely new. But Kid Rock's post was, this is a level of respect that shit for brains governor of California will never know. So Kid Rock is saying, standing on his multi-million-dollar house, which you should get paid for what you've earned, but again, to the military flying a helicopter by. This is what are we respecting here, Kid Rock and Pete Hegseth? Are we respecting the dead U.S. service members over in Iraq? How are we respecting that? What if we took the fuel that we spent to fly by Kid Rock's house and distributed amongst the wounded and dead service members? That would be some respect. It would be more respectful not to start a war and go get them killed in the first place. But as you said, Pete, when you came to Central Ohio, you sat down there and they were just like, finish the job. What job is it? As J.D. Vance just said, well, we're going to get the uranium and hopefully we don't have to do it for a very long time. What do you, again, you guys are fucking idiots. But this is not respectful. This is a disgrace to the actual Constitution, the people that have actually sacrificed their lives, the people that have actually served. And again, I emphasize me personally, this guy, the intelligence agencies at the highest level, a lot of times the director of the CIA doesn't know. It's not nation states. It is not nation states in any fucking way. No more so than, again, you go to a bar and you see some 45-year-old wearing their high school Letterman jacket. You're like, who's relevant? Not that guy. It's just the upper levels of the intelligence agencies, you can just do things. And there's no centralization. It's not like you get a badge and some business card in an office to check in at, for fuck's sake. But this is, again, just projection at face value. This is the level of respect. Again, he thinks just look up the picture. There's a Statue of Liberty and I don't know how these people are men. They're not. They're bitches. They're cowards. They're losers. This is a level of respect that shit for brains governor of California will never know. God bless America and all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice to defend her. Great, so why don't you take the fuel money used to do this flyby and give it to the people that are sacrificed and not Kid Rock blurt out that shit. Some other people, because again, it's this sentiment. It's like, we're going to make America great. We're the Republicans. We're the Patriots even. We're the nationalists, but not the ones that are going to say Sig Heil or something. Unless if we go back to Elon Musk, then that might change again. And so the sentiment of any one group dictates and sets the expectation for each individual. That each individual then makes their own decision in saying this is good, because they can literally say, Pete Hegseth's going to go into a briefing meeting and they're going to be surrounded by people echoing the same shit. Echo chambers continue to exist. It's the same nonsense that people comment all throughout history, and it just doesn't stop, and it's just directly in your fucking face. So no, there's actually nothing more disgraceful to the United States Constitution than wasting taxpayer dollars for some fanfare parade bullshit. There just isn't. But this is our leadership, again, as I sit here without constitutional rights, watching my parents age, never being able to have access to my property, and I have contributed and served this world more so than anybody else, and collectively. Everybody else, nobody has contributed to this world in comparison to me, not at all. And so that was the post from Hegseth and Kid Rock. Kid Rock posted it, Hegseth responded to it. And so back to the moon that we've definitely been to that is not public in any way, shape, or form. Again, you go take sunlight, for lack of better words, and then I've shown you literally how to contact non-humans directly, immediately. Nobody can censor that. You can't stop it. You just need a frequency. Like if you literally just jumped up and down at a regular interval really fast, or even not really fast, and just resolved liquid, you can't. People have to stop lying. There's nothing else I can say. And so we have this Artemis 2 moon mission. It's supposed to last around 10 days. Our astronauts are Christina Koch, Victor Glover, Reed Wiseman, and Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian. Got to watch out for them. They weren't doing too good on the tarmac the other day. And so, yeah, this is a carnival, dude. Because everybody knows about me. These steps are proven steps. And you see me do science. We've been to the moon. We've been to Venus, or at least close to Venus. There's 100% life forms known, articulated, again, at a sponge level. Like the things that wouldn't even be called sentient life. Still not disclosed to the public from Europa. There's a big crustacean-like Great Barrier Reef type of well-documented life form on Europa. And there are not humans. Again, I'll make a whole video. I'm not beating around that bush. It's just not the content of this, what I sit down to do. And so, but the life is everywhere, boys and girls. So I continue to emphasize and articulate and document the hilarious, heinous crime that continues in the United States of America, specifically towards me. But at this point, for the past 10 years, the suppression of science has caused more death and destruction globally than will ever be calculated, than will ever be enumerated, and more so than will ever be documented. I keep saying the same shit. My rights are violated. The world is a terrible place to live. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.